I am 81 years old. I am 12 kilograms lighter than I was last spring, and for the first time in a quarter of a century, I no longer start my day with the click of a plastic pill organizer. My doctor told me that at my age we do not improve, we simply manage the decline. He was wrong. We are taught to believe that fragility is the only destination for an aging body. We assume that once the strength leaves our legs, it is gone forever. I spent 20 years waiting to become a ghost, accepting the lie that my best chapters were already written. But I found that the body is not a machine that simply breaks down. It is a landscape that responds when you finally decide to tend to it. There were no shortcuts, no miracles, just the unglamorous work of walking, eating real food, and refusing to stay still. If you feel the world beginning to look right through you, stay with me. I am not asking for your attention. I am asking for your company. If you are also someone who refuses to be written off, join us here. Tell me you are listening in the comments. Your presence is what makes this story worth telling. Click-clack, click-clack. That is the rhythm of my mornings. 7:30 sharp. The kettle is whistling. The cat is winding around my ankles, and I am sitting here at this scarred oak table with a plastic grid in front of me. I am still sitting here, aren't I? Still staring at those little white pills like they are the only thing keeping the lights on. For 25 years I let myself believe that. I let myself believe that as long as I heard that click-clack of the plastic lid every morning, I was doing my part. I was being a good patient. But there is a difference between staying alive and actually living, isn't there? It happened on April 14th. I remember the date because it was my granddaughter's birthday party at the park. It was a beautiful day, lilacs blooming, kids screaming, the kind of afternoon that is supposed to feel like a gift. But I was just exhausted. I had walked maybe 50 yards from the car to the bench, and my heart was thumping against my ribs like a trapped bird. Later that night, Sarah sent me the photos. I was scrolling through them on my iPad, smiling at the cake and the presents, and then I saw it. A candid shot. Someone had caught me from the side while I was sitting on that green wooden bench. I did not recognize her, truly. I saw this woman with a rounded spine, her chin tucked into her chest, looking like a discarded heap of laundry left out in the rain. My shoulders were slumped under the weight of 15 extra kilograms I had spent 2 decades pretending were not there. I looked fragile. I looked like a ghost who had forgotten to leave. I looked at my hands in the light of the iPad and thought, Evelyn, you are 81 years old and you are waiting to die. You are not participating. You are just spectating. That photo felt like a physical blow. But the real crack, the moment the denial finally shattered, was 3 days later in Dr. Arris's office. You know that sound, that crinkle of the white paper on the exam table? It is the loneliest sound in the world. I was sitting there, legs dangling, feeling like a child, while he wrapped that black cuff around my arm. He pumped it up, squeezed, released. He did it again. Then he sighed. 155/95, Evelyn, he said, not even looking up from his clipboard. And that is with the maximum dosage. Your heart is just, well, it is tired. I started to say something. I wanted to tell him I was trying, but then he did it. He reached over and patted my hand. It was a kind pat, a gentle, do not worry your pretty little head kind of pat. It is normal for your age, he said. His voice was so soft, so patronizingly final. At 81, We just have to manage the decline. Do not push yourself. Just keep taking the pills, stay off your feet, and enjoy your quiet years. Normal for my age. That phrase felt like a prison sentence. He was looking at my birth certificate, not at me. He saw an expiration date, but inside, I could still feel the fire of the girl who used to hike the ridge behind her father's farm. I could still feel the woman who raised 3 children on nothing but grit and black coffee. I walked out of that clinic feeling a cold, quiet anger I had not felt in half a century. I got home and I did not take my shoes off. I walked straight into the kitchen. I stood on the scale, the one I had kept hidden behind the hamper for 5 years. 82 kilograms. Exactly 82. On a frame that was meant to carry so much less. I looked at the pantry. I saw the boxes of senior-friendly processed crackers, the sugary nutritional shakes that tasted like chalk, the white bread, the hidden tins of biscuits I used to numb the boredom. I did not think. I just started grabbing. Everything that felt like management went into the bag, the processed salt, the hidden sugars, the easy meals that were really just slow-motion surrenders. I emptied the counters until they were bare and cold. I stood there in the middle of my kitchen, my chest heaving, my hands shaking. The house was so quiet, I could hear the clock ticking in the hallway. I had no plan. I had no miracle. I did not have a program or a secret. I just had that bare oak table and a terrifying, fragile realization. If I stayed on the path the doctor laid out for me, I knew exactly how my story ended. I would be a memory before I was even gone. I looked at the back door. I looked at the old sneakers by the mat. I was not ready to be a ghost, not yet. I reached out and touched the handle of the door. My heart was still 155/95. My weight was still 82 kilograms. But for the first time in 25 years, I was not reaching for a pill. I was reaching for the handle. That first step across the threshold, it was not a triumph, it was a stumble. The door did not lead to a miracle, it just led to my driveway, which suddenly looked as long as a landing strip. I remember it was a Tuesday morning, about 10:15. The air was damp, that kind of bone-deep chill that usually makes me want to wrap myself in a blanket and wait for May. I had those old white sneakers on, the ones with the Velcro straps because my fingers are not what they used to be, and a coat I had not buttoned in 3 winters. I set my kitchen timer for 10 minutes, just 10. I made it to the end of the block and back. 650 steps. That was the total limit of my physical universe that day. When I got back to the porch, my heart was whistling in my throat like a tea kettle, and my calves, they felt like they were being gripped by hot pliers. I sat on these very steps and I cried. Not because I was proud. I cried because I was embarrassed. 81 years of life, and I could not walk for 10 minutes without my body screaming for a white flag. The next 3 weeks were the hardest, not because of the effort, but because of the silence. You expect the clouds to part when you decide to change, do not you? You expect to wake up one morning feeling like a new woman, but you do not. You wake up with a lower back that feels like it is made of dry kindling. You wake up wanting a biscuit. I would spend 40 minutes in the kitchen every afternoon, peeling raw beets until the tips of my fingers were stained a deep, bruised purple. I would roast garlic until the smell filled the house, wilting bags of fresh spinach into a pan of olive oil just to have something real to eat. It was quiet. It was boring. No salt kick, no sugar high. just the sound of my own chewing and the ticking of the clock in the hallway. I would look at the scale every Sunday morning at 8 a.m. 82 kilograms. Week 2, 82 kilograms. Week 4, 81.8. A rounding error. I remember standing there, looking at those numbers and thinking, Evelyn, you are an old fool. Just go buy the crackers. Go back to the pills. This is too slow. It is too late. But then came the gravity resistance. That is what I called it, to make it sound more important than it was. Twice a week, Tuesday and Friday, I would stand behind this heavy oak chair. I would grip the back of it until my knuckles turned white, and I would try to lower myself, just a few inches. A bodyweight squat, Sarah called it. The first time, my legs did not just ache, they vibrated, this strange electric shaking that made me feel like I was made of thin glass. I did 3 sets of 5 repetitions. 15 times I sat toward the floor and stood back up. It took me 20 minutes. I felt ridiculous. I felt like a bug on its back, waving its legs at the ceiling. But I kept the rhythm. Walking at 10 a.m., cooking at 5 p.m., squats at the chair twice a week. Week 6 came, then week 8. The change did not happen in the mirror. It happened in the boring middle. It was the Tuesday I realized I was not checking the kitchen timer anymore. It was the Friday I did 10 squats instead of 5, and my legs did not shake, they just felt heavy, solid, like they were actually rooted into the floorboards. The victory did not come with a parade. It happened last Thursday, and I almost missed it. I was coming back from the market with 2 bags of groceries, real food, heavy with cabbage and onions, and a small roasting chicken. Usually, I would have to leave the bags on the porch and bring the items in one by one, or wait for the neighbour's boy to see me struggling. I walked up the 3 stone steps to the porch. I did not stop halfway to admire the flowers. I did not reach for the black wrought iron handrail. I just walked up. I opened the door with my shoulder, carried the bags straight to the counter and set them down. I stood there in the kitchen for a long time, just listening to my own breath. It was steady. It was quiet. No whistling. No trapped bird. I looked at the handrail through the screen door. It was just a piece of metal. I had not needed it. I had not even thought about it. It was not a triumph. It was just a door, standing slightly ajar. And for the first time in 25 years, I felt like I had the strength to walk through it. The house is quiet this morning. I am sitting at the same oak table where I used to start every day with that little plastic grid. The organizer is still there, pushed back toward the wall, near the toaster. But it is different now. The lids are not snapped shut. There is no bitter, chalky dust at the bottom of the compartments. It is just empty. It is strange how we get used to our own disappearance. For 25 years, I accepted that I was shrinking, not in size, but in life. I had become the woman who needed the handrail, the woman who needed the nap, the woman who needed the pharmacy to keep her heart from giving up. I thought that was the only way to be 81. It was not a lightning bolt that changed my mind. It was just a series of Tuesdays and Fridays. It was the walking. It was the roasted garlic and the spinach. It was the boring, beautiful repetition of choosing to move when every bone in my body told me to stay still. I realized how much had changed 3 weeks ago, getting ready for the Sunday service. I reached for my favourite navy skirt, the tight one, the size 20 that used to pinch my breath if I sat down too quickly. I stepped into it, reached for the zipper, and it did not just slide on, it fell. It gathered in a heap around my ankles. I stood there in my slip, looking in that same bathroom mirror where I used to avoid my own eyes. The steam was not blurring the edges anymore. I saw my shoulders. They were not slumped. I saw my neck. I saw a waistline that had been buried under decades of resignation. I had to take a kitchen knife and punch a new hole in my leather belt just to keep my clothes up. But the real test, that was the wedding. Sarah got married on a terrace overlooking the valley. 30 stone steps, steep and uneven, baked in the afternoon sun. A year ago, I would have looked at those steps and seen a wall. I would have waited at the bottom, smiling at the photos later, pretending I did not mind being left behind. I started to reach for the black iron handrail. It is a habit, you see, that reaching for support. But halfway through the motion, I stopped. I just did not need it. I walked up. 1, 2, 10, 20, 30. I got to the top and I turned around to look at the view. My lungs were steady. My heart was not thumping like a trapped bird. It was just beating, strong, rhythmic, quiet. I felt a solid, heavy strength in my thighs that I thought had vanished in the 90s. Then came the follow-up with Dr. Aris. He did not say anything for a long time. He wrapped that black cuff around my arm, pumped it up and listened. He frowned. He moved the stethoscope and listened again. Then he took the cuff off, looked at his notes from April and looked back at me. "Evelyn," he said. And for the first time he did not pat my hand. He looked me right in the eye, like I was a person again, not a patient. "I do not know what you have been doing, but your heart does not belong to an 81-year-old woman anymore. It is stronger than it was when you were 60. He picked up his pen and crossed out the prescription, then the next one. I walked out of that office with a piece of paper that said, "Transition complete." So, here are the numbers. I do not say them to brag. I say them because they are the only truth I have. I am 12 kilograms lighter than I was on that April morning. My resting heart rate, which used to sit at 84 just from the effort of existing, is now 62. And for the first time in 25 years, I am taking 0 milligrams of medication. I did not find a miracle. I did not find a fountain of youth. I just found my way back to the girl who used to hike the ridge behind her father's farm. I am not finishing my story. For the first time in a quarter century, I am the one holding the pen. I know where you are sitting. I know the weight of that chair. I know the sound of that plastic lid clicking shut, and the way the world seems to get a little smaller, a little darker, every single year. I see you. I was you. That is all I know.